This is the moment nobody can explain. Max Verstappen stepped into a Mercedes at the Nürburgring and produced a level of pace that left even Lewis Hamilton completely silent. Not surprised, not impressed, silent, because what happened on that track was not normal. Over 100 cars on circuit, constant traffic, zero margin for error, and yet, Verstappen made it look effortless. But here's the part that changes everything. This wasn't a random run. This was an official, structured program designed to prepare him for one of the toughest races in motorsport, which means this pace was real, repeatable, and far more dangerous than it looks. Because when a driver can jump into a completely different car, a rival manufacturer, a completely different racing world, and still operate at this level, that's not just talent. That's dominance without limits. But here's the question nobody is ready to answer. If Verstappen can do this in a Mercedes at the Nürburgring, what happens when that level meets Formula One again under the right conditions? At first, it didn't look special. No aggression, no dramatic moves, no signs of domination, just control. Verstappen stepped into the Mercedes like he had nothing to prove. And that's unusual, because when a driver enters a completely different category, they usually try to make a statement early, push harder, brake later, force the car to respond. But he didn't do that. He slowed everything down. Not the speed, the process, the way he approached each corner, each braking zone, each interaction with traffic. And that's the first signal something is different. Because when Verstappen goes quiet, it usually means he's building something. But here's where the Nürburgring changes everything. Because this is not a normal circuit. This is chaos, long straights, blind corners, constant elevation changes, and traffic that never disappears. Cars everywhere, faster classes, slower classes, all sharing the same narrow space, and over 100 entries on track at the same time. This is where mistakes happen, even to experienced drivers. But Verstappen didn't react to the chaos. He controlled it. He positioned the car early. He made decisions before situations even developed. And that's where the pace begins to appear. Not in one lap, not in one moment, but everywhere. Small gains, every corner, every sector, every overtake. And suddenly, he's not just fast, he's efficient. And efficiency here is what creates dominance. But here's the detail most people missed. He wasn't discovering the track. He already knew it. He had already raced here, already won here, already understood how the Nürburgring works. So this wasn't adaptation. This was refinement. And that's dangerous, because when a driver like Verstappen moves from learning to refining, the gap becomes inevitable. But here's where things start to feel different. Because while others are fighting the track, he's flowing with it. No corrections, no hesitation, no wasted movement, just precision. And that's when the pace becomes undeniable. Not explosive, not aggressive, but constant, relentless. The kind of pace that slowly breaks everyone else. And this is the moment people begin to realize this is not normal, because this isn't just speed. This is control at a level that doesn't belong to someone new in the car. And that's where the tension begins to build. Because while the outside world sees a strong performance, inside the paddock, they're seeing something much more serious. They're seeing how naturally he fits, how quickly he understands the car, how easily he operates within a completely different system. And that's not something you can ignore, especially not if you're Mercedes, and especially not if you're Lewis Hamilton. Because now, this isn't just about a fast driver. This is about a driver who can step into your environment and immediately operate at your level. And that changes everything. But the most important part is what happens next, because this controlled beginning is about to turn into something much more uncomfortable for everyone watching. And this is where everything shifts. Because up to this point, Verstappen was controlling the race. Now he starts controlling the pace. And those two things are not the same. Because controlling the race means staying clean, avoiding mistakes, managing traffic. But controlling the pace means deciding how fast everyone else is allowed to go. And that's exactly what he started doing, without forcing it, without showing it, just increasing the pressure, slightly, lap after lap. And this is where other drivers begin to feel it. Not immediately, but gradually. They start pushing a little harder, braking a little later, taking more risks in traffic, trying to match something they don't fully understand. And that's when mistakes appear. Small ones at first, a missed apex, a compromised exit, losing time behind slower cars. But those small mistakes, they add up. And Verstappen, he does the opposite. He becomes even cleaner, even more precise. And that contrast is what creates the gap. Because this is not aggressive domination. This is psychological. He's not attacking the competition. He's forcing them to destroy themselves. And that's a completely different level. Because now the race is no longer equal. One driver is in control. Everyone else is reacting. And when that happens, the outcome is already decided. But here's the part that makes this moment so uncomfortable. Because while all of this is happening on track, there are people watching who understand exactly what it means. Engineers, team principals, drivers, and one name stands out more than anyone else. Lewis Hamilton, because he knows this feeling. He knows what it looks like when a driver reaches this level. When everything slows down around you. When decisions become automatic. When the car feels like an extension of your mind. And now, he's watching someone else do it. In a Mercedes. At a track like the Nurburgring. And doing it without effort. That's not easy to ignore. Because Hamilton understands something most people don't. This level is not about speed. It's about control under pressure. And Verstappen is showing it. In a completely different environment. Which means one thing. This is transferable. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because if this level of control exists outside Formula One, then it exists inside it too. But here's where the story becomes even more intense. Because Verstappen is not just maintaining this pace. He's stabilizing it. No drop. No inconsistency. No signs of struggle. And that's rare. Because even the best drivers have fluctuations. Moments where the rhythm breaks. Where the pressure builds. Where small errors appear. He had none of that. Just consistency. Relentless consistency. And that's what finally breaks the competition. Not one move. Not one lap. The accumulation of perfection. And this is the moment where the silence becomes real. Because there's nothing left to question. Nothing left to analyze. The performance speaks for itself. And for someone like Hamilton, that silence is not accidental. It's recognition. Because when you see something at that level, you don't react emotionally. You understand it. And that understanding is what makes this moment so important. Because now, this is no longer just a strong performance. This is a reference point, a benchmark, something that will be remembered inside the paddock. Long after this race is over. But the most important part still hasn't happened. Because what this performance creates next is what truly changes everything. And this is where the real impact begins. Because once the race was over, the performance didn't disappear. It stayed. Not on the timing screens. In people's minds. Because this wasn't just fast. It was clear. Undeniable. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because now, there is no argument. No context to hide behind. No excuses about the car. No debate about conditions. Verstappen stepped into a completely different machine. A different system. A different world. And operated at a level that felt natural. And when something looks natural at that level, it changes how people think. Especially inside Formula One. Because teams don't just look at results. They look at patterns, at behavior, at how a driver achieves performance. And what they saw here was efficiency without effort, control without visible strain. And that combination is incredibly rare. Because most drivers show their limit. You can see it in corrections, in small mistakes, in inconsistency. But Verstappen didn't show a limit. And that's what creates uncertainty. Because if you can't see the limit, you don't know where it is. And that's where the conversations begin. Quiet ones, inside garages, between engineers, between decision makers. Because now there's a new variable. A driver who has just proven that his performance is not tied to one car. Not tied to one system. Not even tied to one category. And that changes everything. Because suddenly, the question is no longer about loyalty, or contracts, or current teams. It becomes much simpler. Who can maximize this? And that's the question nobody wants to answer publicly. But everyone is thinking. Because performances like this, they don't just impress. They influence. They shift perception. They create pressure. And pressure leads to decisions. But here's where it connects back to Hamilton. Because more than anyone, he understands what this means. He has been that reference point. That driver who defines system. Who elevates a team. Who sets the standard. And now, he's watching another driver step into that same environment and operate at a level that feels familiar. Too familiar. And that's why the silence matters. Because it's not about surprise. It's about recognition. Recognizing a level that very few drivers ever reach, and understanding that it now exists somewhere else. But here's the final layer, the one that ties everything together. Because this wasn't just about Verstappen proving something. It was about timing. Because Formula One is changing. New regulations, new opportunities, new power shifts beginning to form. And in moments like that, performances like this become more than just results. They become signals. Signals that travel faster than announcements, faster than negotiations, faster than contracts. And once that signal is out, you can't take it back. Because now everyone has seen it, everyone has understood it, and everyone knows what it could mean. So when the next big move happens, when the balance of power shifts again, when decisions are made behind closed doors, this moment, this performance, will be part of the reason why. Because what Verstappen did at the Nürburgring was not just about speed, it was about removing doubt, completely. And once doubt disappears, everything else becomes possible. So now, after everything you've seen, after everything that was revealed, there's only one question left. Not about the past, not even about this race, but about what comes next. Because if this is what Verstappen can do, in a Mercedes, outside Formula One, then what exactly is stopping this from becoming reality inside it?